Hello and welcome. This reading is for the week of July the 27th through August the 2nd. My name's Angelyn. Welcome. How did you make it through last week? Looks to be not so easy. All right, let's look at the theme for the week, July 27th through August 2nd. Okay. Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune card indicates that this week there's some sort of cycle that's ending. Maybe it is a next place, like maybe we're arriving at the next place. Maybe we get the very clear feeling that a point in history or a point in time that something's ending. The Wheel of Fortune usually indicates that there's like a completion of sorts and sometimes a beginning again, but it's not always that. So it feels this time like it's an ending. All right. So let's look at the week. And so we're looking earlier in the week first, of course. Okay. The High Priestess is showing up early in the week. So closer to the 27th, 28th, 29th. And she always indicates just a high level of integration has happened. So what that means is like there's been something that's happened that we had to process and then actually like synthesize the learning so that we can then use the learning. There is a sense of celebration involved in this. So, maybe this is about last week, maybe this is about earlier in the summer. I'm not sure. Ask. Okay. I feel like it's about more recent events. But she is an indicator that we've actually processed or we're processing so that we can take that next step up. Now, the middle of the week. Okay, so let's see. That would be like the 30th, something like that. It looks like we've got a challenge going on. We have that feeling of I fully trust myself. I know myself well enough to know that this is not true or this is true or I'm going to go in this direction. And then we've got the Devil card, which is essentially what the Devil card is any idea, anything that pulls you away from your sovereignty, from your ability to make decisions, from yourself. So when it is in direct conflict or it is opposing in this way, the King of Cups, which is that feeling of knowing yourself and not being afraid to get, to learn more. I mean, that feels like, is this collective? Okay, so this could be a more like a localized, individualistic thing. But there may be things that are coming up in your life this week that feel like they're pulling from you. That ability to trust yourself and to know that you've got yourself and that you know what to do. And if this happens, I know what to do. If that happens, I know what to do. I don't know how I'll react, but I'm going to do the best I can. And I know and trust myself and know that I'm going to be able to do whatever the thing is. Anything that pulls you out of that confidence. And that could be, it's oftentimes fear. It's oftentimes around money, around panic. It's things that pull you away from that ability. Be very mindful of anything that is trying to take from you in that way. There's a very clear direction by the end of the week that we are going to have to pivot. We're going to have to really take things into consideration, use the resilience and the strength that we've built over time just to sort of manage and make it through. We know we had the new moon last week. We've got a full moon coming up this next week. There's a lot happening this time of year. It's Leo season, right? Don't forget that Lionsgate is a portal that opens on August the 8th. And I am willing to bet that we're starting to feel the disruption from that. That's what it is. We've got to be, it's like, you've got to be able to pivot this way. You've got to be able to pivot this way. You've got to be able to juggle and move around easily. Like that's what the resilience that you've built this far is for. It's for that ability, that agility, being able to quickly shift directions and move around. This is going to be really, really important. Do not get rigid about where you have to go, where you have to be. Travel plans. I'm actually traveling that week. Try not to be too rigid. Go with the flow. This is what the resilience you've been building is for. Other than that, be really mindful that there's something that is coming to an end. And you know, as well as I do, that when things begin churning in that way, they start coming to an end. That cycle, remember this, the cycle, the wheel of fortune, when things start coming to an end, usually there's that like last minute grasp for air, right? Be aware of that. I feel like that the devil coming in and pulling from our sovereignty is a really important thing to pay attention to. Make sure that you're tending to that. You're not letting things, you're not sticking your head in the sand and you're not sticking your head inside a teepee. All right, let's look at advice just quickly. Okay. All right, the advice is to make sure that you're keeping your head on. Make sure that you are evaluating as best you can your options and what is actually happening. Make sure that you are planning and strategizing. If this happens, this is what I need to do. If this happens, this is what I need to do. You're just thinking about it. You don't necessarily need to make decisions, but you do need to make sure that you're thinking it through. There's going to be a lot of ideas and a lot of differing, sorry about that. There's going to be a lot of differing thoughts. There might be like a jumbly feeling in your head, like, but if this happened, I don't know. But if that, I don't, and that's okay. That's going to feel weird and difficult, but you've got to just make sure you're like strategizing and evaluating. I particularly like to write things down as I'm strategizing just so that I can have clarity. You need to do whatever works for you to bring clarity. But this is about the mental process. There's a lot of energy around the mental in the advice. Take it easy. Best of luck. I will see you next week for a full moon and a Lionsgate portal opening. Take care.